Hello everyone, welcome back to Tadowski's Shelter. Today, with the drop of the new SP hero Skull, we are going to discuss his abilities, how they could be used, and what they mean. We're going to start talking about the definitions and how they can alter how a hero is used. Remember guys, like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more LSS content, leave a topic in the comments, and let's get into it. The new hero Skull was just released, and there is a lot of new abilities, and a lot of people have been talking about him in various aspects. I've heard a few relations to him being the anti-Maggie Negan and Rick combo, but let's break down the skills, let's talk about it, let's explain what they mean, and understand how Skull's abilities can be utilized to the greatest effect. So if we open up Skull, you will see the basic hero format. He has 8 skills just like everyone else. However, as you know, SP heroes require SP medals to fully unlock. Now that means that more than likely, in order to fully unlock this character, you will have to spend money. However, I've noticed that the developers have been a little bit better with the treasure wheels, giving everyone a free spin. That will take a long time, and chances are you're not going to be able to fully unlock the character, but at least you can have access to them, and you may be able to unlock a skill or two at the minimal level. For other players that are looking to fully unlock the character, let's discuss what's going on here. The first thing I want to point out is that Skull is a archer hero. If we look in the top left-hand corner underneath a hero's name, it tells you a lot about how the character can be utilized. The first thing you'll see is the faction tag, their story lore, who they belong to. This doesn't play too much into anything other than story lore. However, it's always cool to note what faction that they are associated with. Below that will determine the best place to use the hero, whether it is going to be front, mid, or back. He is a ranged hero, which means he is going to be better in the middle or back row. Some other ones you'll see are support or melee. That's going to be front or wherever. It will suggest to you where to place. Doesn't always mean you have to place the hero there, just that they recommend that's where he's better suited based on his skills. The last thing here, though, is one of the most important ones because it will suggest what type of troop to use with this hero. If you quick glance through his skills, you will see that all of his skills are related to shooters and that his combat skills will only be used if the hero is leading shooters. So make sure that when you use Skull, you're using him with shooters to get the maximum benefit. The great thing about heroes is that a lot of them do repeat skills. So your first, third, fourth, sixth, and seventh are generally always the same. Your first, third, and fourth are 100% the same all around. And we'll talk about each one of these individually so that you can understand the definitions that are involved and how this gets applied. If we click on the first skill, this is the Dictator skill. When you open up these screens, the first thing you're going to see is the type of skill it is, and then the target of the skill. Basically, the type is going to tell you what it actually does. This one is Dictator skill. That means it applies throughout the entire squad, whether they're in a battle or not in a battle, it doesn't matter. And then the target is going to be who it targets. Now, this is an important thing to note because people get confused the terminology here. The two main things you will see under the target is going to be hero squad and hero formation. Squad is going to refer to the troops that hero specifically leads. So if you have a fully open APC with 3 heroes, you will have 3 heroes and 3 lines of troops. The troops that are next to that hero are going to be that hero squad. The entire APC as a whole is going to be the formation. This first skill is going to refer to how many troops can be in that squad. With each level, you increase the amount of troops that hero can lead. Now, the skill details, if you open it up, it specifically states how many troops per level, and then you have a little bit of a multiplier here based on the hero level times 100. The second skill is going to be the hero's most basic combat skill. What it actually entails, whether it's passive or it's an actual combat skill that causes damage, and what it entails is all going to be different to that specific hero. For Skull, it's called Biochemical Grenade, and the requirement is going to be leading shooters, which we've pretty much established. It states that in the first 3 rounds, and keep in mind, I'm going to talk about only max level skill details. I'm not going to talk about everything leading up to that point for ease of explanation. So your skill detail, the level 10 detail, is going to be that in the first 3 rounds, Skull will poison 2 random enemy squads each round. The damage rate from poisoning someone is going to be 100%, and it's going to reduce the healing effect by 30%. The poison is going to be a status that you can get. There are different statuses different heroes can give out. Some are burning, some are ignite, poison, curses, etc., etc. If they are poisoned, then they will sustain a certain amount of damage every round. This skill will last 1 round. The last part to this skill is going to be that all your squad's resistance and combat speed are going to be increased by 5% for 5 rounds. So this makes Skull's beginning rounds of a battle a little bit stronger. You're going to be stronger the first few rounds of a battle as opposed to the end. Looking at your other heroes in comparison, some of them may only kick in more skills near the end of a battle versus the beginning. Everything has a place. Knowing what APC you have and what heroes you have and how you want to set it up is going to be important. Whether or not you want to have all your strength in the beginning or if you want to have all your strength at the end, there's a lot of different setups that you can have, but understanding how this works and how to read these things will help lead you to matching them with heroes that will complement them as opposed to working against them. So the second skill here is going to be a basic combat skill. It's not going to be extremely strong and it's not going to be that weak. It's just a kind of introduction to what the hero can do. The third skill is the same for every hero. It's another dictator skill that will apply to the hero squad, and it will increase the resistance of the hero squad. It is a defensive formation. Every hero, I believe's third skill is defensive, and the fourth skill is always going to be offensive. The fourth skill is going to increase the hero's squad might. So these first 4 hero skills are generally the same for every hero, with the alteration of the second skill, which is specific to the hero. But the second skill is always going to be a combat skill. Now, for SP heroes, these first 4 skills will be able to be maxed without extra SP hero medals. The last 4, which are generally the more powerful of the skills and alter your hero to make them extremely more powerful, will require SP medals in order to fully max out. And as we said earlier, the best and easiest way to get extra SP medals is to play other events or games that will cost money in order to upgrade your SP hero to max level. The amount of SP medals you need from getting the hero all the way till maxing out a hero is going to be 33. There's one SP hero that's slightly different, and that's going to be Maggie, and that's because you have to upgrade her from purple all the way through gold. She will require some more medals than everyone else, but in general, the majority of SP heroes will require 33 medals total. So keeping that in mind, let's talk about the rest of these skills. So skills 5 through 8 are going to be the last 4 skills that are going to make Skull who he is and why he would be applied to certain situations and certain APCs. The 5th skill here is going to be a combat skill. It is called Fire Splash. It reads, in each round, 100% chance to deal 110.2% plus hero level times 0.2% damage to all enemy squads who have a 50% chance to being subject to the burning status. And the damage rate for burning status will be 100%. If a hero could be maxed out at 50, if you take that number, multiply it by 0.2, and you add it to the 110%, you're looking at a maximum of roughly 120% that is applied to any squads that can be subject to the burning status. It's a very long, confusing sentence that we should try to understand a little bit better. Now, remember, burning status is just a status like poisoned. Every round that you are suffering from this status, you will get damage. But this doesn't say they are suffering from the burning status. They're just saying that they have a 50% chance to be subject to. This is going to apply to heroes that can prevent statuses from happening to their troops more so than anyone else. If you have a squad with a regular hero that just does basic stuff, then they have a 100% chance of the burning status or the poison status or any status. This is going to come into effect with certain heroes that have preventable statuses from happening. Now, these are very specific heroes that they refer to and is not generally applied to everyone. So you can read this as every troop that you're fighting can get this damage, and this damage will last 1 round. This skill continues on. It says in the first 2 rounds, the chance to cast the skill will be lowered by 30%, but the hero squad will get a shield that can offset 75% of the damage, and we'll stop there because it continues on, but this is only referring to the first 2 rounds. So let's understand what this is saying. It's saying that in round 1 and round 2 of the battle, you will have round 1 a 70% chance to cast the damage, and then round 2 you will have a 40% chance to cast the damage. But in those first 2 rounds, that squad will have a shield that will prevent 75% of any damage it sustains. Now, it continues to state that starting round 3, the hero's chance to cast the skill will be restored to 100%, with the hero squad taking 20% less damage and dealing 15% more damage until the end. So basically what we're saying here is for the first 2 rounds, you're going to get a shield. After that, you're guaranteed to do the damage, but you will get 20% less damage and 15% more damage until the end. This is important because if you're facing any APC squads or heroes that do more damage in the first rounds, this is going to offset that. Some heroes will do all their damage in the first few rounds, and then the rest of the battle, they do normal damage. Other heroes will do no damage in the first few rounds and do most of their damage in the end. A good example of this is Panther. Now, if you are in at least season 2, you can see that one of Panther's skills states that it will do increased damage the first 3 rounds. Now, if you have a shield the first 2 rounds that prevent 75% of the damage, his maximum amount of damage, which I believe is around 250%, will be greatly reduced, which means you can survive those first few rounds better than you normally would, and minimizing the effectiveness of Panther. This is just an example. It's not stating that it will always happen, and that is a pretty big deal when talking about this skill, especially when they're facing other heroes that do all their damage in the beginning. Moving on to the next skill, Awaken. Awaken is every hero's 6th skill, and this basically is another dictator skill that not only increases the amount of troops the hero can have, but it also may add some extra buffs like might and resistance. For Skull, it applies only to shooters again, and it states that shooters will have an extra 15% might and resistance, it will have an extra 15% HP, and it will add a 250% bonus to the dictator skill. Now, to fully unlock Awaken, once again, you will need extra medals. Skull's 7th skill is going to be another fairly repetitive skill. Every hero will have a slight variation of this skill, but they will refer to the hero's formation. It will add a buff to every squad inside that APC. It will either increase the might, the resistance, the hit points, or some combination of them. And this doesn't change for Skull. The max level for the 7th skill for Skull is going to increase might and resistance both by 30% for the entire formation. The last skill for Skull, and generally the 8th skill is most known as the strongest skill for all heroes, is going to be called Daunting Deterrence. This is again with shooters, and it states each round 25% chance to suppress the poisoned or burning enemy squads and deal 80% damage to those non-suppressed enemy squads. This is a pretty big thing, especially depending on who he's matched with. Suppressed is the ultimate form of stopping your enemy. You'll see terms, there's 2 terms that you'll see that are very similar: suppress and silenced. Forsaken One is an example of someone who does silenced. Suppress is by Skull. Now, silenced means that your hero cannot do any combat skills. Suppressed means your enemy's troops and heroes cannot do any skills or attacks. And that is big because some heroes, their skills will apply to troops and not to themselves. So even if you silenced a hero and they cannot cast any combat skills to do attacks, their skills apply to their troops who do the damage. A good example of that will be Maggie. If you look at Maggie's skills, most of them say all troops in hero squad will do X amount of damage and do this. If you cut out the troops, then you're really cutting her effectiveness drastically. The fact that he can do this suppression is big. However, the key thing to note here, in order for him to suppress, they have to be poisoned or burning, which makes him a good compatible character for someone like Rose, who can poison someone. Also note that his 2nd skill randomly poisons 2 enemy squads, so he can also poison and suppress at the same time. Now, it's a very low chance to do this, but just having that 25% chance does help make him stronger. But in the offset, he doesn't suppress anyone. He still can do a maximum of 80% damage to anyone not suppressed. So if they're poisoned and burning and he doesn't suppress them, he does a good chunk of damage to them on top of his other skills that he has. So keeping all this in mind, Skull is a very well-developed hero in the fact that he is not extremely powerful on his own and will require a good matchup in order to utilize him effectively. How you match him up is going to be completely up to you. We are not going to discuss formations in this video. This is not the point of this video. There are a lot of people that do test out formations. The reason I do not test out formations is I do not have access at this moment to every hero available. We are not in Season X. We have not gone through Season 3. We are in the middle of Season 2. So for me to try different combinations and suggest anything would be doing a disservice to the game, in my opinion. I can try and suggest things. Like I said, matching him up with Rose would be a good idea because she does poisoned. But if you're only in Season 2, there's not too many options to get the burning effect. But the main thing is understanding what the skill is. And it's important to get into the habit of looking at what each skill for every hero does and understanding what's the best way to match them with what you have. Not every hero is going to combine well with others, and some are going to combine better than others. Just throwing all your SP heroes together in one APC does not mean you are guaranteed a win. You have to read what the skills are, and you have to judge how they do battle and how they would each work well with each other. So it's important to start looking at these skills, understanding what they are and knowing what they do, so that you can make a better decision how you want to set things up. Understand that there is no one answer fits all, and everything also depends on the enemy you're facing and what their setup is. Doing your research and understanding what heroes do and having your own options to make different combinations is going to be a major factor in how much you succeed. That is the new hero. That is my thoughts on him. So tell me what your thoughts are. I want to know, what do you think about Skull? Do you think you're going to use him? What are some of the combinations you might use him with? I would love to know what you got. So leave those in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and that's it. We're trying to get you to understand things. This is obviously geared towards the newer players, and there are a ton of terms that are thrown around, and you really have to dive into what they mean in order to understand it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your week, look out for each other, help each other, and until next time, be safe out there.